Hello, welcome to Lift the Load. I am your host, Claire King, and today I am joined by Alice. Alice was an in-person PT before she had her daughter, and now she's an online coach, and that's kind of how we met because we had a mentor in common because online coaching is a pain in the ass. You have to do so much more than actually coach. There's so much social media and stuff, and that's how we kind of met. And then we also met loads of coaches that way as well, who we don't always agree with. So we've kind of got a mutual frustrations about the industry. So we thought today we would basically just chat through some of these frustrations and share them with you. So it's kind of like a little coffee date with the two of us. So Alice, we're going to talk about aggressive dieting. What do you consider an aggressive diet?
Oh, good question. So I've just made myself a cup of tea and I would have liked a biscuit with it, but I haven't got one because I don't think anyone needs to hear me crunching a hobnob. Um, but for me, an aggressive diet is something that was frowned upon in the industry for probably the first part of my career. I feel like when I came into coaching and PT, it was all about getting healthier and building habits and all of that sort of thing, which I think is great. And then over the last year, I would say more so, there seems to be this theme of aggressive dieting. So getting people to lose as much weight as quickly as possible, basically. So cutting out all the foods you enjoy or most of the foods you enjoy, not having a life, living on chicken and broccoli and a bit of a salad and snacking on rice cakes and celery sticks, which, if that's your vibe, crack on with it. But I don't think for the majority of people, that's how most people like to eat, is it?
I've done it. I've been that person.
Yeah.
I'll happily admit I've been that arsehole. Counting out my raspberries. I actually took Tupperware to my sister's hen do. What a fucking knob. Like, no word of a lie. I was actually training to do a bikini competition back in the day, about 10 years ago. And I look back and I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. But even then, when I dieted, I was still on 1500 calories. It was like, that was the lowest I went. And now we're seeing people on like 1200 calories. I don't even know how you can survive. I don't even know if my child could survive on 1200 calories. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that year old's eating that amount of calories by about 4 hours since she's got out of bed. Yeah.
It's half term here. The amount of snacks I'm divvying out is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, will it stop? So yeah, I just find that I've personally seen as a massive increase in this like aggressive approach, but also that it's like seen that like coaches should do it and show that it's like this is what they do and how it works really well, and it's like get in, get out approach. But equally, I'm like that they're a coach that's they live a very maybe different life to a lot of clients, and also I don't know about you, but I don't know how you feel about like that quick transformation kind of vibe when you've got children yourself. Like I've got a child. I don't want her to see
Yeah.
that. I don't want that relationship with food.
So I've been a coach for about 11 years now, and I probably got into coaching for the wrong reason. So I was a bit of I wasn't a chubby kid, to be fair. I was a kid who was like tall. So I'm 5'4", but I've been 5'4" since I was 10. Like, I've just not grown since I was 10. My boobs didn't grow since I was 10. I had a boob job when I was 20 because they'd not grown since I was about 9 or 10. I've always been tall. I've always been quite like muscly, quite heavy. And when I look back at photos of me as a child, I wasn't fat. I didn't have rolls of fat. Not that that would necessarily be an issue, but I was just a big built kid. I remember my mum used to say that I was built like my granddad, who was a professional rugby player, and I probably was, to be fair. Anyway, I then dropped weight without really trying when I got to probably like 12-ish, when I went to high school, just through losing, I guess, puppy fat, as they call it, and liked that I was getting slimmer. But then also found like throughout my teens that I learned that I could really restrict my food because I was at school all day and I got a job on an evening, so I could skip my tea and different things like that. And I got thinner and thinner as a teen, never to the point where you would look at me and think, oh my God, she's got an eating disorder. But I was definitely thinner than I would naturally fall if I ate like a normal human. And then often I would gain a little bit of weight, never particularly like over, never bigger than like a size 12. But as soon as I lost some weight, I would get very, very like positively reinforced by my family or by friends or boys when I was a teenager and that sort of thing. And I remember the first sort of proper diet I did when I was about 18, I think, was Rosemary Connolly, which was supposed to be 2 weeks at 1,200 calories. You had to have a certain amount of grapes. You were allowed 12 grapes on it. I remember that. Everything had to be under 5% fat, 5 grams of fat per 100 grams it was. 1,200 calories for the first 2 weeks. And you were supposed to lose half a stone in the 2 weeks, which I did. And then you could actually up your calories, but I never bothered. So that was not really on the diet, that was on me. But I would stick to 1,200 calories until I'd lost usually about a stone. And then I would rebound and regain the stone and I would lose the same stone backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And I just don't think that that is a healthy way to live. And I don't think that it's enough food for a normal human being to live on. And then I got into coaching really because I also found a love for the gym, which came from stuff that I would never do now, but doing like body pump and spin and body combat and them sorts of classes. And I found that the more I did them, the better I looked or the less I weighed, because I also didn't eat because I'd go to the gym on an evening instead. And I thought, I could do this for a job and it'd be a way to do a job that kept me thinner, which is horrible to think of. And then over the years, that got into like strength training, having a personal trainer of my own, feeling more empowered by getting stronger, building muscle and wanting to help other women do the same. But initially, I just thought, like, what can we do to be thinnest? And then now looking back as a mum, I just think, isn't it sad that we come from like a generation of people who think that being thin is the most important thing in the world?
My mum was always on a diet. My mum was always on a diet. There was like the Special K. I was very much like you in build, which I look back and like, it wasn't even that big, but I was just had developed a lot before everyone else. And I think a lot of our clients are still very much in that mindset of, you know, thinner is better still, because they were brought up with that. Don't waste your food. Another thing that drives me absolutely. Be thankful for your food. Don't waste it like you're a garbage disposal bin. It drives me insane. And we got so many things about good foods, bad foods, and all those negative connotations that I just think aggressive dieting feeds those feelings rather than going, actually, what is balance? Like, and I'm not saying I don't think people can use calorie counting to help them lose weight. I'm not against losing fat, but I think you need to do it with some very intuitive eating habits and questions and mental strategies to help go inside that. I think calorie counting can be a really good way to learn. I also think it'd be a really good way to learn that you can have a chocolate bar and it won't fuck everything up. But it's trying to do that at the same time. And I just think those hard in, hard outs, or what coaches are like say, oh, look at these amazing transformations in 8 weeks, aren't necessarily looking at those underlying things that can actually really change their mindset and mean that they have long-term success going forward. And also, if they're doing that in front of their children? A lot of our clients are mums. Like if that's what they're seeing, are we just doing a whole nother generation of people that are going to be like, dinner's better, we should only eat these, there's good food, there's bad food, and we're just going to keep the cycle going? And actually, it just doesn't empower women in any shape or form. It's got to go completely backwards.
I agree. I totally agree.
It's crazy. And I also think that the energy demand as a mum, like, I don't know about you, like it's demanding. The mental load is one thing. The actual physical, like running around after a child, like working, I just can't imagine having to do that and not eat enough as well, because I would like dieting's stressful for your body. Well, we both know this. Then adding that extra stress in just makes me just think no. And I just think it's setting everyone up for failure. Do you have that a lot with your clients?
Yeah, and I get a lot of like, so the majority of people that I work with are mums. A lot of them are like, so my little girl's 3, nearly 4. A lot of them are toddler mums because I guess they probably relate to me. And I often have a lot of women that say to me, like, I've either been on a diet or off a diet, but I've never been in that middle ground. So like they've either been trying to restrict and trying to say like, you know, no, I'm not having chocolate. No, I'm not having a takeaway on the weekend. No, I'm not having a glass of wine on my Sunday dinner, saying no all the time. And they can only hang on to that for a certain length of time before, you know, eventually they snap. And for some people that can be weeks or months, but for a lot of people it's 3 days of trying to, you know, have a salad for every bloody meal. And then they give up, or they're off a diet with no structure and no routine. So all of the habits that maybe they did build when they were dieting are out the window, and suddenly it's like a slice of toast for breakfast, a packet of crisps for lunch, raiding the biscuit tin. And then neither of those are particularly good or examples to set to their children. And so really a lot of my job I find is trying to teach people like what that middle ground is, because they're either trying to restrict and then they've got no energy, or they're overindulging on the wrong things, and probably is not the right turn of phrase, but I can't think of a better one.
They're not nutriently dense, are they? So there has to be an element of, I'm all for very like flexibility. I'm all for having a biscuit. I love a bit of chocolate. But equally, if you don't eat your vegetables, you feel like dump. Go on holiday, have a great time. Make sure you have 5 fruit and veg a day, because you'll be constipated and bloated and you'll feel awful. Like, I don't really care what you're doing, but do that for you. Like, it's teaching them those like basic skills. Because I think everyone actually knows how to eat, don't they? Everyone knows what healthy is, but it's trying to do it where I can have a biscuit and not be like, oh my God, I want to eat all the biscuits. And I'm trying to explain to people that, I don't know about you, the first biscuit's great. The second biscuit might be good. A whole packet just feels awful. I feel like that with wine. I'm like, the first sip of wine is like, when you're like totally stressed, you've had a really, really busy week, and you sit down with a glass of, for me, a bit of red, and you have the first sip and you're like, oh. And the first glass is delightful. But after that, I'm really quite done. I'm not great. I must admit,
I do like a glass of wine, but I totally agree with you. So like, I remember my mum, she used to say, there's no point in opening a bottle of wine without finishing it. And I think the thing that's like been instilled in me is like, the first glass of wine, like you say, is amazing. The second glass I enjoy, but then the third glass I don't really want. But then there's only one glass left in the bottle. So you think, well, I'm not going to want to drink tomorrow. I might as well drink it, because your body's a garbage bin, to get it out of the house, and then I won't drink tomorrow. When actually you'd be better off having 2 glasses of wine on a Saturday and then just 1 glass of wine with your Sunday dinner, or maybe not.
Or you just save it in the fridge and use it
I'll just save it in the fridge for a couple of days,
Or just, you could use it in your cooking, or if you throw it away, it's not the end. I'm very much like that when people go to restaurants. I'm like, the portion sizes are usually far bigger than you actually want. Like, if you keep checking in with yourself, no one cares if you take it home in a doggy bag. Like, no one cares.
We did that the other week. So we went to Miller and Carter for a meal, and it was lovely, but it was a Sunday menu, and it was cheaper to get, or the same price to get 3 courses as it was to get 1 course. So
you get 3 courses.
3 courses, but I was like, I don't want 3 courses. So I ate my starter, which was some calamari, which was lovely. Then I'd ordered a steak, ate the steak, ate about half the chip, and then it came with like a lettuce wedge. Didn't eat all of that, like ate a little bit of that. And then the waitress came around and said, do you want your puddings? And I was like, I'd looked at the menu and I thought, I want a chocolate brownie, but I don't want one for 900 calories. So I said, can we have the puddings? Because we paid for them, but can we take them home? And actually, we had them 2 days later, and I had like half the chocolate brownie because it was huge and half was more than enough. And then Bill and Lillian shared the other half, and then they had the other pudding as well. But yeah, they're just mad, aren't they? And I think that's the thing, is that like this aggressive dieting thing tells you that you can't have these foods. So you can't have a drink, you can't go out for a meal, you can't have a biscuit with your cup of tea. But then a lot of people, including myself, that doesn't work very well, because then you're thinking about it all the time. So the thing for me that I blooming love is those big cookies from Marks and Spencer's, but they're about 320 calories each. So depending on how many calories you've got within your day, you could probably fit in a 300 calorie cookie. Maybe not every day, but you know, a couple of times a week. But I remember being told by a coach, who I won't name, that it was ridiculous that I wanted a cookie. And that I shouldn't have them. And so I would try not to have them. But then what would happen is I would crave them for so long that I would go to the Marks and Spencer's and I would buy a bag and I would eat all 4. Well, that's ridiculous. But if I just know that I can have one if I fancy one and it fits in my day, over the course of the week, my calories are much less because I'm not binged on something.
So many people do that. Or they do the other thing where they go, oh, I want some chocolate, but I'm going to eat some fruit. And then they'll eat some popcorn, and then they'll eat something else, because the whole hasn't been satisfied. And
Yeah.
I think when I said about mental load, energy around food, it's also that thing of understanding that food is not just fuel. We are not robots. You also need it for your soul. Like, it's so social. It's part of our lives. And you're never going to say, oh, I'm not going to have birthday cake or things. And I bet that coach was a bloody man. I'm not a man hater, everybody, but
It actually wasn't.
it
Surprisingly.
wasn't. I'm like,
No.
at that time of the month, I'm like,
No.
really?
Usually it is. I have had a male coach that said to me before, I remember saying that I'd got, I don't know if you know those bars of, you can get those bars of dark chocolate from Aldi, but it's like loads of little bars and they're only about 120 calories each. And Lily, my little girl, wanted one. So I had one, she had one. And obviously a 3-year-old is probably not going to like dark chocolate. So she had a bite of it and she was like, oh, I don't really want that. And I was like, oh, it was lovely. So I was like, oh, I'll have it as well. So I had two. It's still only 240 calories. So I mentioned this in my check-in to my coach and was like, in hindsight, I probably should have like thrown it away or wrapped it back up or whatever. I was like, but it was still only 240 calories. It fit within my day. It's fine. And I thought his response to me would be, yeah, that's fine. Like you've hit your protein, you've had your fruit and veg, you're within your calories. And he said, right, I think what you should do if those sorts of things are happening is to cut out all chocolate, all sugar, all sweets, all those sorts of things for 2 full weeks and then you won't crave them anymore. And I was like, or it will go the other way and I will crave them and I won't have 200 calories of chocolate, I'll have 2,000. I just don't think it works for everyone. And I think the reason that a lot of coaches are pushing it at the minute is because so many people are using weight loss medications and don't have those cravings, so can stick to such low calories. Coaches are like, oh, how do I keep up with you people using a GLP-1? I know, I'll put my calories on clients on 800 calories a day and they'll lose weight really, really quickly. But if you have the cravings and you have the appetite, you probably can't stick to that.
And let's be honest, those injections are really expensive. Like, I think that the prices keep going up and people will stop being able to afford those. And again, have we worked on the relationship around food? Therefore, when we stop having those injections, are you going to have those cravings? And how are you going to deal with them?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a case of watch that space. I also think that like it is very much a thing of people are telling you that you need to show your unusual self as like social proof. Like you have to be like an example to everyone. I don't want to lose weight. I was like, I don't want to do a photo shoot. I'm fine like I am. I could try and put on weight. I'm just like being me. I don't track my food. And that's like after years of doing all those things, I'm in a place where I don't need to do that now. That's like the dream. That is the dream. I'm like, I don't want to show anything apart from be me. And I personally am not great with those. This is what I eat in a day, because what I can eat in a day is going to be way more than so many more people.
Yeah,
like it's just ridiculous. I just think it's that feeding of, and it just fuels mum guilt. I think we've gotten so much mum guilt on a daily basis. Are we doing enough with our children? Are we doing this? To add into the fact that we're like got guilt from like about what we're eating and things. I can't do that.
Same. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like as a coach, and this is the thing that makes me a bit cross with the industry at the minute, is that, and I think it does come with like online coaching versus in-person personal training. The flexibility of online coaching, especially as a mum, is great. Like it's the school holidays this week. Lillian's with a childminder for 5 hours today, but I've had the last 2 days off with her and only worked on an evening. So the flexibility is great. But the downside is that you are constantly working. You can never switch off and your life becomes showing that you're this fit, healthy person versus, you know, if you're in a gym or, you know, you're a mobile personal trainer or whatever, people just want you to instruct them how to exercise. And I think the thing that for me that I found really, really tricky is that like sometimes you're not in, like you say, like in a phase where you're really working towards anything. You are just a human who goes to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week. You go out for walks, it's good for you every day, and you mostly eat healthy food. And certainly for like my clients, that's the goal. Like my job is to get people who aren't exercising regularly or are doing pretty rubbish exercise to lift weights correctly, who are not following any structure with the diet, to get some routine so they're eating enough protein and enough fruit and veg. And if their goal is fat loss, to lose some weight and then learn how to keep that off long term, give or take a few pounds, because we all put on half a stone when we go on holiday or over Christmas, but it comes off again and it's not the end of the world.
It's just not very sexy though, is it? To put on social media. It's actually really dull.
It's dull and it's boring. I was the busiest I've ever been as a coach when I did a photo shoot at the beginning of last year. And I had so many people come to me and start working with me and be like, well, you're a mum and you're doing this, so I should be able to do it too. But the reality was that most people couldn't because they didn't have the same setup as me. They didn't have the flexibility to work from home. And actually, I did actually really enjoy the process of working towards a photo shoot and I felt really good when I did it. But I couldn't maintain them results because I was dieting in a way that didn't sit my lifestyle. My husband makes amazing food. We've got a pizza oven and he cooks homemade pizzas, not every week, but every couple of weeks, particularly over the summer, he'll make a pizza. I reckon there's about 1,000 calories in the pizza. So ordinarily I would have half a pizza with him and usually a couple of glasses of wine. But during this diet phase, I remember eating like one slice of his homemade pizza whilst my little girl and my husband ate the rest of the pizza. And I just thought and I was still hungry. And then I would have like some chicken on the side or whatever. And yes, I felt good when I had my pictures taken, but do I want to spend the rest of my life only having one slice of pizza when he's been out in the garden with the pizza oven all afternoon? Probably not, no.
No, and it's just, like I said, food is more than just fuel. It is those social occasions, it is sitting down, it's part of your family setup. And equally, seasons with motherhood change massively. Like, I actually was like my thinnest. Okay, but bar eating disorders. But like when Lizzie was like a baby, I was just a bit manic and she, like, I don't know what happened, but like, it wasn't even from trying. And then the toddler stage comes and she did not sleep at all, but she was also moving around. I decided that I needed to put weight on, but like, they're just different stages. I just think that like, there are some stages where it's easier than others. I think the toddler stage is the hardest. Like, genuinely the hardest.
Yeah, I would agree. I remember losing weight quite quickly after I had Lily, and like I didn't gain up that much weight when I was pregnant, about 2 stone. And then a stone of that came off like as soon as she was born, which is the first time I've ever lost weight over Christmas because she was born a couple of days before Christmas. And then over the next 6 months, I intentionally thought about wanting to lose the weight that I'd gained, but I didn't put any pressure on myself. And looking back, that was probably the best time I've ever tried to lose weight in my life. I didn't track my food. I just made sensible choices. Like if I went out for coffee and a cake with my friend, I'd say, shall we share this slice of cake? And, if I ordered a hot chocolate, I probably wouldn't have cream on it. And if I was having a burger, I wouldn't have the chips as well and things like that. But I wasn't intentionally tracking my food every day. I was just being pretty sensible, I think. And lost the weight that I'd gained quite quickly, but then so I was back to like probably half a stone less than I was when I fell pregnant by the time she was like 9 months old. And I looked and felt pretty good, to be fair, but her sleep went, like you say, absolutely terrible. When she got to about 10 months, she didn't sleep through the night till she was nearly 3.
This sounds so familiar.
Yeah, and so the last 2 years, I found really, really challenging. And I've said to myself, do you know what? If that means that I'm a size 12 rather than a size 10 for a season of my life, but I can have a glass of wine and a bar of chocolate on a Wednesday, but I'm still doing the healthy habits of 3 meals of protein a veg a day, going to the gym, getting, like, I do about 15,000 steps most days, like I'm outside with the dogs in the fresh air. Does it really matter? Like, is being a little bit fatter sometimes in a season of your life? Obviously, I don't mean so that you have to be craned out of your house, but, it's not the most important thing in the world. But coaches at the minute would have us believe that unless you've got a 6-pack and you're eating 800 calories, you're failing. And I don't think you are.
I totally agree. And I'm just also get to the point where I was like, also, we're getting like a bit older. Like, we need to protect like our muscle and like our collagen. Like, I'm like 5 years older than you. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not in the season of my life where I want to be dieting. I need to protect my hormones.
Well, I don't have enough money to spend on the amount of filler that I'd need. If I went on an extreme diet and ate 1,000 calories a day for 6 months, I don't think I've got enough money to pay for the Botox and the filler that I'd need to top my face back up to looking something like I wanted.
I think I want to say it's going to pass in the industry again because phases do, but
yeah,
I'm not sure. I know maybe other people aren't seeing what we see because obviously like the algorithm shows other coaches and stuff to us, but I also just kind of really want mums to be wary that it doesn't have to be that like extreme. Yeah. You can actually have a really balanced life and feel really, really good. And it doesn't take as much effort as you sometimes think. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. We've pretty much covered most things. Have you got anything else to say?
No, just that really. Just that, like, I think as like for like any mums listening, it's one of those things that, like, yes, you could try and do these extreme diets. You could try and have 1,000 calories a day. And in theory, if you did that for, 6 months, you might lose 3-4 stone in that time. But who wants to? And it's not a race. Like, if you're, and this is the thing that I think people forget with these aggressive diets, is that usually they're for a short period of time, usually for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, something like that. But then what comes next? Like, if you're a human who wants to, let's say, lose a couple of stone, and you want to be fit and healthy and strong in 5 years' time and in 10 years' time and in 20 years' time, why does it need to be a race? Like, why do you need to get from where you are to where you want to be in the next 3 months? Why can't you let it be something that you work on over the next 12 months and then for the rest of your life? Like, that's my view.
And I definitely think if you spend that little bit extra like time doing it and work on the things around the food and the relationship, you are more likely to be that person that's still succeeding. Because the people that succeed and the people that people look at and go, I wish they looked like them, are really just doing the very most boring basics.
The boring basics over and over again, and I've been doing it for years.
Yeah, that is totally true. So as we're kind of rounding up, where can anyone find you that's listening to you that has no idea where you are on Instagram, so you can come and follow you, see your journey and your lovely daughter?
I am on Instagram as Alice Strong Mum Squad. So yeah, drop a follow, say hi.
And I'll put a link in the bottom of the footnotes on the podcast so people can click there and find you.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. And if you've enjoyed that episode of Lift the Load, make sure to subscribe so you get notifications every time I release a new episode. And if you could do me the hugest of favours, like and review. It takes mere seconds, but it does me a huge solid. And I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks where we can still lift the load together.